Happy Feel Good Friday, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. Happy Pi Day. Friday Pi Day,
Oh,
3.3.14 day today, if anyone celebrates, to those
what,
who
what,
observe.
there's this song. It's like sine, cosine, cosine, sine, 3.14159. Do you know? What?
No, I've never. That's pretty good. Thanks everybody for joining again. Happy Friday. If you can't tell, we got a very special edition here. For the first time in a long time, but not for the last time, we've got Mr. Jeremiah Blackburn, who is over
JB.
Woo!
over our roofing division. Air horn. JB has been with ESP for quite a while now. How long have you been here?
A couple months less than Andy. How long have you been
Oh,
here,
a couple.
Andy?
Just a couple months. Yeah, just popped up on
Yeah,
a roof a
so
bit.
Andy
Five
just hit
five
five. I think I'm
years.
coming up on five.
Coming up on five.
Nice.
Nice.
Love
Right
that.
on. Do you also have 25 plus years roofing under your belt?
18 years of
18. Okay.
roofing.
All right. I
18.
rounded up. All right. All right. Well, good stuff. Yeah, if in case you're unaware, JB runs everything for our roofing division at ESP and has done an excellent job at it. We have thousands of roofs under our belt thanks to him at ESP, all in-house, all covered by exceptional warranties, great products, all that stuff. We have a plethora of stuff we can go over today, but we're going to try and keep it to a somewhat contained agenda. But if anybody has any questions along the way, drop them in the chat. We are happy to get to them. Yeah, there's a ton to go over, but the great thing about roofing is it's PB&J with solar. We had a few people ask some pre-game questions, but we'll get to those as we go. And we're just going to
Right.
start off. I wanted to share thanks to Brandon for giving us this beautiful install of the week, install of the month, whatever we want to call it. We got a excellent little sunrise photo of a flat roof installation. And one of the questions
Nice.
that we had come through was about flat roofs and kind of the process for how we handle those, what we do for them. So we can talk more to that as we go through the agenda, but just wanted to show this off. I love solar porn, guys. I'm sorry. I hope that's not controversial to say.
Hey, extra credit if anyone knows what kind of flat roof that's installed on.
Ooh, is that gonna, let's see.
That looks to be, I cannot confirm, but to my eye, it looks like a spray polyurethane foam roof.
Foam roof.
And
Okay.
typically they will install that over the top of another roof. So it probably had a torch down roof. They put a spray foam roof and then there's a coating like elastomeric or a silicone coating over the top of that.
Feels a
So we'll
little
talk about a
squishy.
little later what kinds of flat roofs we can do. That is one of them.
There we go.
Assuming the top coating is in good shape, because that coating is the actual waterproofing of the roof. The foam does nothing but insulate.
Could that
Very
also
good.
be referred to as a membrane roof?
Nope. A membrane roof is different. This would be called an SPF or spray polyurethane foam if you're a nerd.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Spray foam would be the layman term. SPF,
I'll use that one.
somewhat knowledgeable. Spray polyurethane foam. Only this guy says that.
Nice.
Good stuff. Well, that feeds in nicely to what we're covering. So here's our agenda. What we work on. We'll go into a little detail in clay tile per Brandon, and then just again, why to use us, how the process goes with getting your estimates and getting your actual full-on quotes, and then of course a warranty how to, and then we'll wrap it up with the Q&A. So we can just get on going. We have that guide. I need to do a little bit of cleanup like we talked about before this, JB, but we have a whole roofing 101 deck basically that you can go through. You can have, it's really handy information, quick reference of like, yes, these types of roofs are good to go, no problem, as long as they're in good condition. And then there's a whole thing on like what to look for to tell whether it's in good condition. And then we have that next section that is these types of roofs will require more work. They will either need a re-roof or partial re-roof or whatever. That's a stuff that we like to go through. So,
Kenny, I think I'm going to cheat the system a little bit. I think we start out with how to quote a roof at
let's
the
do it.
sale, if that's okay.
You're driving, man. You take us on this ride.
Yeah, let's do it. So I guess the first thing I want to do is challenge everyone since we're talking about roofs. A lot of you guys sell virtually. So you're looking from a satellite view, top down. What kind of roof are we looking at here? If you had to take a guess.
Flat roof. Oh, sorry.
No,
Never mind.
Just
That was my
because it's in
Tourette.
just because it's in 2 dimensions doesn't mean it's flat, Andy.
If I had to guess,
Yeah.
well, I'll wait till the end. I don't want to spoil it.
I think Andy was 50% right. There's the word flat embedded in there. Oh, I like it. Flat tile from Michael Nelson as well. And Kevin, you guys are on point. JB, do you agree with that?
What's the
Yep,
material
flat concrete
of that
tile
flat
looks like.
tile?
Anytime
Oh.
you have those real clean lines from the overhead view, that's typically going to be tile, and how straight they are leads me to believe flat tile. And you'll know with the straight view, obviously.
Beautiful.
Important to note that it's also concrete flat tile,
Yeah.
right? Because there are different types of not favorable flat tiles out there.
Yep.
100% true.
One might call them Cal Shake.
Cal shake, cement fiber. There's a bunch of
Yeah,
fringe tiles that are no longer made. And
yeah. They are
for good
frowned
reason.
upon and have legal issues. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started in solar 11 years ago, one of the things that I had incorporated was know before you go. So I had to run leads, and I needed to look up that house and know what I'm dealing with, so I knew what kind of conversation to have at the dinner table. And if you're seeing tarp on the roof, or you see an unfavorable roof, or just it looks like trash, or maybe it's just clay tile, you need to do the assessment before you go in, because how great is it to be able to give a quote at the point of sale rather than say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, sign today for $30,000. A week from now, when we get our scope of work, it might actually be $50,000. We'll see when that happens. Like it's a hard one, right, to overcome. But if you know before you go, you can get that quote with ESP at the point of sale. So today, this is what I want to show you, is how to get that quote. So you're already living inside of Aurora. You've built the design, everything is here. And on the last FAQ Friday that we had, you need to make sure that you have design mode enabled for your login. If you have design mode, you'll be able to enter this screen. And from here, when you click on the roof array that you plan on installing on, you can get that quote. And so we'll click on this array. And then here on the right-hand side, you're going to see a couple of things. One that we want to notate is the pitch of that roof. Aurora uses a LiDAR satellite image to get roof heights, dimensions, and all that, and shade factors. And so part of that LiDAR experience is the pitch factor. So we got a 26-degree roof pitch with an area of 1,123 square feet. Those are the two items that you need when getting a roof quote. So now, where do we pivot to get that dollar amount for the new roof? So with that being said, we're going to translate over to our roof estimate. And that comes from the Sales Resource Hub. So if you don't already have your Sales Resource Hub saved, make sure you go to joinesp.com/hub, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see that roof quote estimator here. That opens up this tab. And then you're going to answer a few key questions. Which territory are you selling in? And in this case, LA, Bakersfield area. Roof installation type. Now there's several different choices. Got to make sure you choose the right one. So earlier we were talking about torch down. We also talked about clay tile. We have comp out opportunities here, and comp shingle being at the top because it's one of the more common ones. But yeah, we have lift and relay, which is remove and replace underlayment paper. So in this, JB, this is a flat tile roof. So would you agree this is going to require a lift and relay or reset?
Correct. That would be the most cost-effective option.
Beautiful. So we're going to do a partial re-roof for this one. And then we're going to choose roof square footage. That's where we gathered that 1,123. We're going to input that number here. And that roof pitch was 26 degrees. That all came from Aurora. Do we have any access issues? And if you're curious of what that means, just read just below. Do they have a driveway? Can we get a truck within 30 feet of that roof so we can take off all of the waste factors, right? JB, is that?
Yep. There's two parts to that. There's removing all the waste and then loading the material. So when the material truck comes, that conveyor boom that they use to get material up to the roof is 30 feet max. So if you can't get it up there, that means they got to drop it from the truck to the ground. And guys have to carry all that heavy stuff over to a ladder, up the ladder, and onto the roof, which takes more time. That's why it costs more.
That makes perfect sense. And then, is new plywood or decking needed? Yes or no? In this case, how would we know? I guess, JB, we could do a little pause. How would you know if decking is needed?
You'll know when you look in the attic. I would strongly suggest, if you're on site, making it a habit you don't have to go inside the attic, but maybe stand on a chair. If you have a little step ladder, something just to open the attic door and shine a flashlight in there and look inside the attic. And this is also another way that you can build clout and credibility with the homeowner, that you actually know what you're talking about, because you're checking things that if they're shopping around, other guys may not check for. And you need to see if they have solid sheeting or skip sheeting in the attic. Okay. Skip sheeting is when the boards are, every other board is missing, right? There's a gap in between. That was code back in the 50s or whenever the house was built. It's not code nowadays. Now you need solid sheeting, so the boards have to touch. And in some jurisdictions, even that's not good enough. Like Whittier, even boards that butt up against each other doesn't work now. They want plywood or nothing, right? So if you see plywood, great. If you see skip sheeting with plywood over the top, great. But if you see skip sheeting with like wood shake on the top, or skip sheeting with like black felt paper, roof paper, then it would need plywood. So whenever you see skip sheeting and anything other than plywood on top, then you would check yes to that. Otherwise, it would be no.
Okay.
Quick
Yeah.
hack from Andy. If it's a single story house, you can actually a lot of the time go to the garage,
Yep.
look up. So rather than like finding where the attic is, which might be in the hallway or in somebody's bedroom in the closet, you can just go into the garage, look up, and if they don't have the rafters built over the top, you can usually see typically the top of the roof, and you'll be able to see if skip sheeting's there. You'll be able to see if plywood's there. You'll be able to see if there's wood shake underneath that comp that you thought the roof was. And we'll get to that in a second, I'm sure. But that's just a quick hack for someone who's been in thousands of houses.
I love that.
Yep.
It's worked for me too, Andy. So I know
Yeah.
you're right on point. So guys, we just answered like 5 or 6 questions, and then boom, at point of sale, we know that this one's going to cost us $11,012, and that is what we're going to implement when you get your to your pricing stage, right? So you know your roof cost is $11,012. Divide that by the system size, boom, you got your price per watt to account. So I think that anything else I should point out here, Andy? That's pretty much it.
No, that's good. Really, the key part of this is using Aurora, utilizing that square footage number to truly get the size of the roof, because not all roofing quotes are equal. You have to make sure that apples are compared to apples. We cannot compare apples to pineapples. And so if someone gets another quote and that quote is, oh my gosh, it's $500, well, we need to make sure that it's the exact same thing. We need to make sure that the square count is the same. So that's a key factor in doing any of this roofing game at all. It's making sure that the squares really are true.
Yep. Now, we do have a couple of questions, and we will tackle those here very soon. I think if you don't know the roof quote at the point of sale or didn't realize that you needed it, for all of our partners out there selling currently, a job will get a scope of work that expresses the reason that roof work is needed. So this is a prime example of an email that you will get if roof work is needed, roof is old, worn, or damaged. We provide that quote for you for PV area only. Here's the scope of work that it involves, so you can communicate this to your homeowner. And then it does a really nice breakdown of the area, the location, and it includes pictures of the quality of the roof. So that way, if you haven't accessed it from QuickBase, great, you have a really quick resource that you can pivot to. What this requires you to do, though, is to check your email. Make sure that you're not missing these.
Also a good resource to show your homeowner when you're like, hey, just so you know, your roof is garbage. And they're like, no, it's not, it's fine. And then you can actually show them pictures of the fiberglass or the the comp that's rolling up. And you can tell them, hey, this is preventative, right? It's not leaking today, but it's probably going to leak in the future. We can help you roll this in to your solar project.
Yeah. And I think it's good to let's discuss with this, JB, what are we looking for on a comp shingle roof for quality control?
If you're asking as far as when to quote a roof, it would be just age, general age of the roof and wear and tear. Fiberglass, if you look at the hips and ridges, the high points of the roof, those usually deteriorate first. So you can see those starting to break apart. Anytime you see pieces of material starting to fall off, that's obviously bad. If you see white, hairy stuff coming on the edge of the shingles, that's the fiberglass. That's like the skeleton of the shingles, right? Shingles are fiberglass layered with asphalt, like hot tar, and then layered with the top layers, the granules, right? And so when you see the granules fall off and they're starting to bald, that's usually an indication that the roof is not necessarily on its deathbed, but walking to the deathbed. And whenever you see fiberglass showing, that's like if you have a cut and you see the bone through the cut, like no bueno.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for that. Okay, so we got point of sale, getting the quote, also the response from ESP if a roof work is needed. Now, last but not least, I want to point out one last thing, and then JB, you take the wheels, but this is really important, guys. This is a picture from your QuickBase Access. So you can go per job, and if a job comes back with roof work and maybe the 2 photos that were supplied isn't enough and you want to see more, great. Hop into QuickBase, go to the job, and you can click on the Pictures tab. On that Pictures tab, you're going to see a site survey Dropbox folder, and you can download all of the photos from the site survey, all 150 of them. At that point, you'll have more than enough ammunition to discuss MPUs, roofs, this, that, or the other unpermitted structures. It's all there. We're fully transparent here at ESP. And then, Andy, you might want to point out maybe the concierge piece here.
Yeah, super important here. What if you have any questions? There's a key thing here that we need everybody to lean on, and ultimately it's you have your concierge lead right here. This is Adele for this job. Your concierge associate for this job right here. The phone number to get a hold of them, which is fantastic. And then also the email, which is really cool. And so you'll be able to reach out to them. But again, how do you find this person? How do you find this phone number? How do you find this email? Go to the job. It's right in front of you. It's the very top.
All right, perfect. Well, JB, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take it away here. Thanks for that.
So I think last thing I would point out with comp shingle or any roof is discovery questions. Like looking at the roof helps, but discovery questions are going to be a better way to get into the deeper part of the conversation with the homeowner where you can really tell if they're going to be open to discussing roof work. You're going to get a sense of where their pain points are, and you're also going to know if they've ever thought about the roof. So things like how long have you lived here, right? That's a discovery question you ask normally. Like a comp shingle roof, for example, depending on the type of shingle, is going to have a life expectancy between 20 to 30 years, right? 3-tab shingle generally around 20 years, architectural shingle around 30 years. So if they say they bought the house 5 years ago and the house was built in like 1987 and it looks to be the original roof, the roof looks pretty old, like you could start to see the warning signs. That's where you might tell them like, hey, this roof has served its purpose. It's probably start time to think about replacing the roof. And whether you do that now with solar or whether you do it down the line, you want to start thinking about it. And that's little seeds you can start planting early on so that later on, if you need to talk about the roof more seriously, it's not a complete shock and surprise, right? You have those discovery questions, you plant those seeds, and then depending on their reaction, whether sometimes selling a roof is an easy way to close the deal. If they're really worried about it, like, yeah, I totally know I need a new roof. That's another thing I have to tackle. I really don't want to do it. It seems big and scary and blah, blah, blah. That's when you can come in and, hey, I can solve that problem too. And now it's another reason to do this now, do it with me. Okay, so we wanted to talk about flat roofs real quick. What types? Again, we're going to amend this, update it just a little bit, but this is a document that we've sent out. Some of you guys may be familiar with it, where it shows all the roof types that we install on, right? Comp shingle, flat roof, what's called built-up roof, which is either hot tar, torch down. It's the industry term for that kind of roof. Rolled comp is what we call it in our roof quotes. TPO, PVC, those are different types of membrane roofs, which are, if you ever look at a roof and it looks like a circus tent, it looks like a weird kind of plasticky, rubbery material that's like stuck together on the sides. That's this kind of roof. They come on 5 or 10 foot rolls, so they're a lot wider rolls than rolled comp. The rolled comp comes on 3 foot rolls. So when you see a roof like this, yes, we can install on it. They just have to use a certain kind of like primer to make sure the stuff sticks. Tar and gravel, we should put an asterisk here. Yes, we do install on it. However, the acceptance rate for tar and gravel roofs is a lot lower than other types of flat roofs because it's not very common anymore. Tar and gravel roofs are being phased out. And so typically when you see a tar and gravel roof, it means that it's a lot older than other types of flat roofs. And so the likelihood of that roof needing to be replaced pretty high. Warning signs that you can look for, just like the black spots where the gravel is faded away and exposed asphalt. Exposed asphalt doesn't work, right? It lasts a couple of months, 2-3 months, and then it cracks and exposes the roof underneath, and then it fails.
Yeah, it's a similar look to when you have like a standard shingle roof and you got bald spots. You're gonna see very similar characteristics of that. So,
especially around the edges.
Oh yeah, especially there. Real quick, just to answer Kevin's question, yes, we will put this doc. I'm actually going to load it up on the Rep Hub on the same estimate page, so you can just click that for a quick reference anytime you need it. So.
Also, Kevin, check your onboarding guide from our onboarding experience. I should have it there too. Okay.
And spray polyurethane foam, we talked about that with that first image that we shared. And that's basically a foam that's sprayed on top of the roof. Those have a very low acceptance rate as well, because in California, they're not very common, and the people that do them typically don't do them right. They don't prep the surface correctly to begin with. They just spray over whatever roof was there. And what happens is they get these pockets of air and water vapor that bubble up. And so when it gets hot, things expand and they bubble up and they press on that. And then you have these pockets and these bubbles, and then something punctures it and that water gets into the foam, and then it's very bad. So with these kinds of roofs, as long as there's not a ton of bubbles, or buckling is the technical term, as long as there's not a ton of buckling, and as long as that top coat, it still looks bright and white and shiny. If you start seeing yellow, that's the foam underneath. Foam does not waterproof a house, right? So if that coating is worn away, sometimes we can just reapply the coating. So sometimes we can send out a roof quote for like a silicone coating, something like that. If the roof is in good enough shape, other times we got to tear off and re-roof, typically with rolled comp. Concrete tile, obviously, you guys are familiar with tile and shingle are the most common roof types. And then we can do standing seam metal as long as it's in good shape, right? If you see a standing seam metal roof, but the paint is worn off, it's starting to rust, the pieces are starting to not do too hot, then obviously that might need to be changed. But typically, most standing seam metal roofs are in good shape, and that's typically a good sign. Corrugated metal we don't do, but what's called trapezoidal or hexagonal metal with this profile, there are some that we can install on, again, assuming they're in good shape. So metal roofing that looks like this or looks like this, we can. Metal roofing that looks like this, like the regular corrugated metal roof, we can't. And then obviously clay tile requires a comp out. Lightweight tile requires a comp out. Metal tile, or what's called stone coated steel tile, Decra tile, Calpac tile, those are manufacturers, right? We don't install on because these tiles are hollow and they dent, and there's not anything anyone can do to prevent those tiles from denting. We have experimented on dozens of these roofs, and every single one, no matter who we send, no matter how delicate we are, it always results in dented, damaged tiles. And so we do not install on these. We have to re-roof to comp shingle or some other type of roof that we install on.
We'd need to have like the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible like suspended from up above to
Yeah.
be able to do. It's just
I'm 150 pounds soaking wet, and when I put my foot on it, it's like aluminum foil.
Yeah.
It literally will cave.
Crumples.
We've again experimented and failed doing comp outs with these as well, where you treat it like a lightweight tile. The problem is these tiles, they interlock on all four sides, right? They're either nailed together or crimped together. And so when you do a backfill with these tiles, assuming you have guys that can levitate and not dent the tiles, where they end, there's nothing to crimp into, and so they end up blowing off later on. They do not have the ability to just end in space around the array like a normal compound. And so no matter who does this roof, no matter how you do it, there's a million ways you can try to MacGyver it to get it to stick down, but ultimately, long term, it is not going to be a good solution for the homeowner, so we don't do it anymore. Wood shake, obviously not up to code for so many reasons. We don't do it. And typically wood shake is installed over that skip sheeting that we talked about. Any custom or special order tile that's not, like, if it's not concrete tile, we don't install on it, right? That's the simple way to look at it. So depending on the type, this would probably require a custom quote. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be comp out like we would do on clay tile or lightweight tile. And then Cal Shake or any other brand of cement fiber tiles, nobody makes them anymore. There's been a million class action lawsuits so long ago that all of those class actions have run out of money and there's no more for anybody. So them's the breaks. Like, this kind of roof was an experiment that failed, and it's a nightmare. If you walk on it, they break tiles. You can't change tiles out in space. We don't touch them. We re-roof to comp shingle or something that we do support. And then this is 2 birds with 1 stone. We put a photo in here of a skip sheeting roof where you can see that gap in between, right? And then obviously anything over 45 degrees, super steep, we don't do. Our guys are good, but they're not rock climbers, so we don't want our PV crews rappelling while they install solar. So that that takes care of flat roofs. One thing I would tell you to be careful with flat roofs are parapet walls. Parapet walls are like what you see here, these walls on the edge. So flat roofs can be like this, where they run off the edge and they have a slight pitch, and it just runs off what's called edge metal, right? Which is like a shingle roof or a tile roof. Those kind of roofs, it's real easy to measure. When there are parapet walls, like on this picture or in this picture, when you measure, you can't go up to the edge. You have to try to see how tall those parapet walls. So let's say the parapet wall is 3 feet tall, or let's say this one looks to be about 1.5 feet tall and then maybe 1.5 feet wide, right? So that would add another 3 feet. So when you measure, like, you can't go based on the Aurora. So Aurora doesn't even give you 3-dimensional measurements. It gives you the 2-dimensional measurement. That's why we put in the pitch. So that's why 1,100 square feet doesn't necessarily mean 11 or 12 squares. It's, once you factor in the pitch, maybe that's 13, 14 squares. And then you add waste to that, and maybe we're talking 15, 16 squares. With flat roofs, you can't take that 2-dimensional measurement. If there are parapet walls, you have to add that other square footage. So let's say a roof that's 20 by 20, right? If it has, that 3 feet on all 4 sides, now you're talking 26 by 26, and it'll lead to a completely different roof measurement. So anytime you have a flat roof with big parapet walls, I would suggest to just email the roofing team, just roofing@joinesp.com, and we can get you a custom roof quote for something like that. You can try to measure it on your own if you want to go in Google Earth, and you can just try to hallucinate and widen everything by the correct measurement. That's going to be a good guess, but it's still a guess. If you want to be more precise, or at least have I told you so insurance, where you're putting the burden on us to be right, email the roofing team and we'll get you a custom quote.
Yeah, don't rely on the geometry nerd in your life. Go talk to the pros. We'll take care of you. We're getting some great questions in here. Just to touch on a couple, are there any additional challenges that you can think of with metal roofing? I know it's less common in SoCal, but probably more common up north, where you get like steeper roofs and snow and things like that. Is that what you tend to see?
Yeah, let's say standing seam, for example. There's a lot of nuance to pricing with roofs that it's not as binary as solar, right? Solar is very simple with its pricing. It's a price per watt. There's a handful of adders, and that's very simple. Roofing, oftentimes I've run into solar sales reps where they do not quite understand all of the variables with roofing. And so like things like roof pitch that people never talk about on the front side, we don't talk about it. We don't have specific adders for roofing, for roof pitch that's like in front of sales reps, but things like a steeper pitch and depending on the roof material. So let's say standing seam metal, for example, you will see a bigger increase in cost for a standing seam metal roof the steeper it gets, just because it's really slippery. And so like the pitch becomes more of a problem on this kind of roof than it would on comp shingle, which has texture that guys can actually walk on. Same thing with flat roofs, right? There are certain flat roofs where like flat roof with parapets, that's one thing, but if you have flat roof that's on a pitch, it tends to cost more. It tends to be a little bit more problematic because it's more difficult, more time intensive to install. So metal roofing, I would say pitch is a big concern. Other things, you don't want to usually mismatch two different types of metal. By the way, any kind of new metal roof is always going to be a custom quote. So if you want a new metal roof quote, it's rare, but every now and again we get someone that just wants standing seam metal, that's fine, but it's always a custom quote. We're typically going to need to send somebody out to the job site from a roof crew to inspect and take more detailed notes to get a roof quote for that. Do we re-roof tar and gravel? No, we don't. We would re-roof to rolled comp. Again, no roofer that I work with, and very, very, very few roofers still use hot tar. It's just incredibly expensive as far as workers' comp costs, and it's very expensive with the equipment. I don't know if you've ever seen a hot tar roof installed. There's a whole trailer they got to bring with a big kettle. They have giant propane tanks. It sounds like a jet engine going all day. It's smelly. The neighbors complain. It makes a mess on the ground. There's boiling, bubbling hot tar. It's a very archaic way of installing roofs. The entire industry has gotten away from it. Nobody really does it anymore. So
you got to get your coven up on the roof and churn the cauldron to no.
If you have a homeowner that's going to put a gun to your head and absolutely wants a hot tar and gravel quote, reach out to us. We can try to get a custom quote for it, but I would have to make some calls. That would be a tricky one. Yeah. Duplex, you have a duplex with a shared roof. If it's segmented, we can stop like where it's segmented, but we can't stop in the middle of a roof plane. Again, there are always one-offs. So again, if you have a homeowner that's putting a gun to your head and they're like, this is a make it or break it issue, reach out to us. We'll try to figure something out. But no roofer is going to warranty half of a roof plane. It's like asking a tire shop to give you half a tire. They only do full tires.
A great question. When we're doing roof work, are you replacing all the metal and flashings 100% of the time, or are you reusing metal in some cases?
In some cases, we will. Most of the time, we try to replace everything. If it's like a weird chimney flashing that's like a custom flashing and it's in good shape, they'll probably reuse it. But most standard flashings and metals we try to replace, just because those kind of metal pieces have a life expectancy that I don't want to have the whole roof as like a 30-40 year life expectancy, and then this one piece is 15 years. I try to, if we don't do it, either it's a mistake and I need to go slap someone's hands, or there's a reason for it. So if you ever see a roof that we're doing and they're not replacing metals and flashings, reach out and let me know, and I will jump on it and see if there is a reasonable reason for it, because they should. That's what's in most work orders. There was a question that asked, will we do a partial roof with Decra tile? No, we don't install Decra tile, period. In a, again, gun to your head one-off scenario, we can always find a quote and accommodate, but as a rule, we don't. Can we do a comp inlay? Like if it's the whole roof plane, we're not going to backfill tile around the array with Decra tile. Again, anyone who says they're going to do that, they're changing half a tire for you. They're finding a way to MacGyver a solution, and it's going to ultimately fail and be a bad experience for the homeowner. I know, because we've tried a million ways every single time. Not most of the time, 100% of the time, those roofs have problems. So we're just not going to do it. It's cheaper to say no than to say yes and have a nightmare the rest of your life.
Most likely that job's not being permitted.
Yeah. Oh, 100% not
Along the
permitted,
way
because
as
the
well.
inspector, The inspector would live at that house if they came and saw metal tile backfill and being
half
spaced.
of a half of a roof completed. Yeah.
Picture frame. Again, if there's a one-off where it's like 1,000 square feet roof plane and we're putting 2 panels there, like something extreme, let us know. But typically we go side to side. The main reason for that is city inspectors require it almost always, right? If you get caught doing a comp out without a permit, it jams up the solar permit. It causes issues for the homeowner. So we pull permits on everything. And then there is no way to get a permit on like half of a roof plane. The city inspectors, they want to check the sheeting on everything. If it's exorbitant, then we usually make an exception. And if it's like a tiny little area, then I might just do that one particular roof plane. I'll figure out a way to do that and sweet talk the inspector if we can, or just not include that on the permit. So there are ways around it in an extreme case. But again, that's a one-off, not the rule. The rule is we go side to side on roof planes.
Yep.
Nice. Cool. I feel like we could go on and on and on.
We're
with
getting,
a
we're
lot
getting
of these
great
things,
questions. Yeah.
which is great. But in the interest of time, I want to make sure we hammer through a lot of this stuff here that we've got left. So let's keep going. And if you continue to have other juicy technical questions, we can take some of this stuff offline, or you can rewatch this if you missed it at the beginning.
So this is what a comp out is. Again, side to side. So this is hip to hip. We tear everything off, put comp shingle, then we backfill the tile around the array. And what you end up with is a lower profile, sleeker looking install. And from the ground, they can't really tell that anything was done. It looks like a tile roof. So a lot of times I get the feedback, oh, well, my neighbor has solar and they didn't do a comp out. How do you know? Did you watch them install? I've gotten that so many times, and then I show them the survey and I can see oh, they already had solar. This is the second system and they didn't have to do this, or the builders put solar on and they didn't have to do a comp out. And I'm like, bullshit, here's the photos. Like there's a comp out on, like, it's hard to tell if comp outs are done, if they're done right. So I would just say, don't jump to conclusions. We're your partner. Our goal, like I think the one thing that people misconstrue sometimes with roofing, our goal 100% unapologetically is to get glass on roofs and for sales reps to get big fat commissions. When that happens, everyone wins. And you guys want to put more deals through ESP, and we're happy and you're happy and birds are chirping and everything's great. So like, we do not want to obstruct anything, but a slightly higher preference than glass on roofs, everyone makes money, is not to put a homeowner in a situation where they're going to have a problem, right? Not to try to get paid today. I don't want to make $1 tomorrow and have to spend $3 next Wednesday fixing a problem and dealing with a pissed off, upset homeowner. I'm not in the business of damaging someone's home. We're in the business of improving people's homes.
Leave it better than you found it. 100% of the time. Leave it better than you found it.
So a comp out is a way also of future proofing their re-roof. They're going to need to re-roof in 10 years. Okay, great. This is part of the roof you'll never have to touch again, because we're putting a 30-year or a lifetime shingle or whatever you want to call it underneath that array. Here's what it looks like on clay tile, right? If you get really, really close, you can see it's a comp out. Like you can see they had to notch the tiles to get it real tight and snug. Sometimes there's like a metal flashing or transition flashing on the sides, right? But from the ground, you can't tell, right? From the ground, it looks like this when you're looking up.
Yeah.
Here's flat, lightweight tile. By the way, you see how they stack tiles like this when we're doing comp outs and when we're doing tile lift and relay? This is how you stage tile on a roof. If you ever drive by track homes as they're building brand new homes that are getting tile re-roofs, you'll see tile stacked like this for months and months, sometimes a year at a time. This is the industry standard, and it is perfectly safe. They put tiles underneath and then stack the tiles there so that it's level, right? If you can see, they have tiles stacked down here and then they level it out. And the weight of those tiles, it's not going anywhere. You can have, it's rated up to 80-mile-an-hour winds like this. So when people freak out and I'm like, I just tell them, look, I know it looks a little scary. That's the industry standard. That's how you stage tile on a roof. It's not going to fall. I've been doing this since 2007, right? And I have not one single time ever had a tile fall off a roof staging it like this. So it does look weird and it looks scary and ominous. But again, the tiles aren't stacked at an angle ready to slide off. They are stacked level, and the weight of everything holds them up there. It's more of a danger while they're working on the roof, right? I tell my guys all the time, caution tape around the edges of the roof, because when they're up there moving stuff around, they might make a mistake and something could slide off, right? But while they're staged like this, it's not these tiles per se, but this, when they're stacked like that, that's perfectly safe. Oops. So this is what it looks like. They do comp shingle, again, side to side, and then they backfill the tile. And so flat concrete tile, M tile, slides right underneath the panels. S tile with a bigger profile, it doesn't slide under the panels, so that's where it just butts up against it around the sides. And that's where the panels look recessed in. So like clay tile, they look recessed into the tiles. And then with these kind of tiles, they just slide underneath.
Really good illustrations here.
Yeah, and we will get those added, these examples added to that reference doc. So good
there was also on the agenda what to do if there's a roof leak, right? If
Yes,
you guys
warranty,
have a roof
warranty.
leak, whether we did a re-roof or whether we didn't do a re-roof, there's a roof leak and you think it's an ESP responsibility to fix. Very simple. Do not have the homeowner call the sales rep and have the sales rep go and do a bunch. Normally, that's the process, not for a roof leak. For a roof leak, have the homeowner call directly into ESP. We'll recognize their phone numbers. It'll go to the right people. All they got to say is, hey, I have a roof leak. Can you guys come out? And it will automatically trigger the right process to go to the right people and to jump on it, right? It'll create a warranty ticket and everyone starts actioning it. Do not take that burden on yourself. I know most sales reps want to try to hold the homeowner's hand and do everything for them. This is the one thing where you want to direct the homeowner, call into ESP right now, talk to them, tell them about the problem. That's the way to initiate that process.
Yeah, don't turn it into a game of telephone where you've added yourself as a middle person to say, oh, well, wait, there's an extra question that I didn't get the answer to. Well, let me call them back and get the, like, not just, we need straight talk, straight to the person who's on site living there.
So I guess the last thing I wanted to say is, I guess, why ESP?
Yes.
And there's a couple of reasons. I think first and foremost, the perception, and I'll say this again, like our goal is to get glass on roofs and get you guys paid. The perception sometimes is that people need to try to work around the process instead of working with us. I would say anytime you have that thought in your head, reach out to us. We will help figure out whatever the problem is. I'm really blunt and direct. If there's something we can't do, I will tell you we can't do it. If it's a pricing issue, I'll bend over backwards to try to make pricing work. There's always creative solutions that we can look at. Don't get in your own way, I would say, right? We are your support. We are your partners in this. Our goal is to try to find a solution for whatever you need, so long as that solution doesn't violate the law and it doesn't put the homeowner in a position to be worse off, right? As long as we can figure out a way to not check those two boxes, then we're good. So reach out, let us be your support structure. Things that we do that most people don't realize, it's really common for roofs to have change orders. Anyone who's ever dealt with roofers knows, once you tear everything off, there's almost always going to be some degree of wood rot that has to be replaced, and that's always a variable cost. We have a budget that we use to absorb change orders to a certain degree. So right now we are holding steady at 92% of our re-roof jobs have zero costs of change orders passed along to the sales rep or the homeowner. Meaning the 8% of jobs that actually have costs that have to be passed along, we've absorbed, in most cases, thousands and thousands of dollars. So if there's a $1,100 change order, $800 change order, typically we're covering that cost. And that's not a variable that you or the homeowner has to deal with. If it's an exorbitant cost, let's say there's something out of the box, like we did a survey and we saw that it had plywood and we tear off and the city comes and inspects and they say, oh, you know what? This is 3/8 plywood. It needs 1/2-inch plywood. We got to resheet the entire roof. That happens. I wish it didn't happen very often, but it happens a handful of times a year. All over. There's no one jurisdiction that does it more. It's just sometimes a while back people used 3/8 plywood instead of 1/2-inch, and now it's biting us in the butt, right? So let's say something like that, and let's say that's a $5,000 or $6,000 change order. We have a lower negotiated rate for change orders with our roofers than is the industry standard. So we have a lower price per sheet already because our guys are not allowed to make profit on change orders. So we start off with a lower cost. They're just covering time and material. And then we absorb whatever we can. So what would have been $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 with another roofer would be $5,000 or $6,000 with us. And let's say we cover $3,000 of that. Whatever's passed along to you is now $2,000 or $3,000 instead of $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 that it would have been with someone else. So there's a huge value in the fact that we're more predictable with our pricing. We have drastically lower amounts of change orders. And whenever we do have a change order, it's a fraction of the cost of what it would have been. And lastly, our roofers, we're sending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to each of these guys that we're using. These are highly vetted roofers. We have a great relationship with them. If there's a problem, we get them to go out and fix it, period. And let's say hypothetically, the roofer that did the job is now gone. Let's say that dude won the lottery, retired, moved to Tahiti. We own the workmanship warranty, not the roofer, right? So again, huge benefit with ESP. We're a much larger, more stable company than any of these roofers. And so you're having that double liability coverage, right? We're the contractor. Just because we're subbing to them, we have a warranty with them. Not the homeowner doesn't have a warranty with them. They have a warranty with us. So there's double coverage there. ESP backs that warranty. We handle problems instead of having to deal with the roofer. Yep. And you can finance it together on the same contract, right? I hear a lot of sales reps have had to do this elsewhere because other EPCs don't necessarily have a roofing department, or whatever they do have doesn't function as efficiently. And so some sales reps are just in the habit of going out and killing something and dragging it home. I respect that, right? They're used to going out and doing whatever the hell they have to do to get a deal to close. The challenge when a sales rep tries to put on a general contractor hat and try to coordinate roofing directly themselves, the sales reps has no legal right to contract at all, right? They can't sign a contract for the homeowner. The homeowner can contract directly with the roofer. But here's the problem. If the homeowner believes that this is part of the solar deal and the solar packaging, and the lender finds out about it, we've seen reps kicked out of lenders where the lender will no longer work with that rep anywhere, not just ESP, but anywhere. We have seen reps where something goes wrong and they file a CSLB complaint against ESP, and we can show we had no roofing anywhere. And then what happens is it ends up causing that sales rep to lose their home improvement sales license because they were basically contracting without a license, right? I am not the permit police. I am not the CSLB police. I don't care. My goal at the end of the day is to do what's going to work, serve the rep, serve the homeowner. But these are things that we've seen happen. We've seen reps get a roofer to come and do a roof without a permit, and then our solar permit fails final inspection, and the homeowner has to pay for the removal and reinstallation of the solar. They have to pay to re-roof that roof again because part of a permit inspection is to inspect the wood decking. And so part of the re-roof, to get a permitted roof, they have to tear everything off so the city can inspect the wood decking, then give them permission to cover. So there's just I could go on and on and on. There's been warranty issues where a sales org has had to hire a roofer to go out and fix warranty issue. There's so many things that could potentially go wrong. It's much better and safer for everyone to let us be the contractor, work with us. If you have a roofer you want us to work with, you're like, hey, I get great pricing with this guy. Great, no problem. Bring him on. Let me try to onboard the roofer. As long as they're legit and they're pulling permits, we'll work with anyone. We do have a quality inspection on our own that we do. So if there's issues, we'll catch it and make sure that they get fixed. That's added security of working with us, but just don't take that risk would be my suggestion. I know cost is always a factor, but the potential risk is high as well.
Is huge. Well, and I wanted to jump in too, because we actually just recently got a review for ESP, a negative review that was entirely related to the fact that the rep chose to use an outside roofer. And the customer got confused and they were like, wait, why am I getting a bill for this outside roof? Because they ended up having just a contentious relationship between the rep and the homeowner. And there was some kind of disagreement, and we weren't involved at all. So we don't have any way to come to the aid of either party. We just have to say, sorry, we don't know what was promised. We don't know who's getting billed from where, whatever. The homeowner gets confused and thinks that we're trying to get extra money somehow. We didn't even do any electrical work on the job. And so we're just like, we don't know, man. Like we haven't even been out there more than once. Like there's just too much potential for confusion and potential for just things going wrong and being done not properly, like JB said. Like just keep it under one roof. Keep it literally. That's a roofing joke. No, keep it one-stop shop. We're gonna make sure that everything is under the same warranty, under the same communication channels, under the same contract and billing. So there's no more like, oh yeah, they came out and said like I have to do this extra thing and it's gonna be $2,500 or whatever. Like, no, that's only through, like you said, a change order that's very specifically documented, and everything is still going to be one-stop shop. It's not chucking a truck rolling up and saying, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just going to get this and run."
ESP, the lender, the state licensing board, liability insurances, even sales orgs, right? Or sales partners that employ sales reps. All of these entities want to help and support a rep. However, when a rep bypasses those processes and with good intentions, right? I've done sales, I've run sales teams. I get the hustle and I respect it. And I'm like, I have no problems with reps being creative and solving problems. But when they take certain risks like that and they go around the processes, if there's a problem, and problems in roofing and construction, it's not as simple as solar. Solar is like piercing your ears, right? We poke some holes, attach some stuff, we're done. Roofing is major surgery. We're tearing everything off. We're exposing the skeleton of the house. It's messy. It's loud. People don't quite understand that. And there's a lot of risk and a lot of potential for problems and challenges with that. When things go wrong, now it puts all of those entities, the sales org, ESP, the lender, the state licensing board, it puts them in the position where they have no choice but to throw the rep under the bus. And then bad things happen to the rep, bad things happen to the homeowner. And there's no protection of ESP, of our insurance, like when things go wrong on a re-roof, like we're doing the re-roof, the rep is nowhere to be seen. They've been paid, they're on another job. They're not dealing with it. Right.
It's for everyone listening, note that JB said when things go wrong.
Yeah.
I did not hear him say if any time in that sentence. When things go wrong.
Roofing is major surgery. There's a difference in expectations. I use this as a funny gift, but I show this to homeowners. Sometimes they have this expectation of roofing and they see the guy selling the roof and they see the brochures and the explanation of the process. And I'm like, you don't understand. Roofing is dirty, messy business, and it's very difficult and it's backbreaking labor. And we have to tear off. It's like archaeology. We're tearing off things that are sometimes 50, 60, 70 years old. Right. And so I'm not even sharing my screen. That's why I get white. Okay. This is what I was going to show. So expectation setting, right? They see very good looking salesmen and brochure and whatnot. And then they see the roof process. And if you do not prepare them for dirty, messy, loud, noisy, major surgery versus pierced ears, right? They're going to be a little shocked at the process. And so one of the best tips I could, just like with solar, right? I say that sales reps, they're a good narrator. Get a ton of referrals and their homeowners are happy. You narrate the process. Hey, this is what's happened. Now this is what's happening next, right? You have touch points. Same thing with roofing, right? We own the communication. We don't let roof crews talk to homeowners hardly ever anymore. And so we have our own internal staff. We have our final QC walkthrough that we use to try to look more like this as much as we can to balance out the fact that all roofers everywhere, period, will not meet homeowners' expectations as far as like the process and the messiness and the noise.
They're going to have a little bit of grit on their hands. Their pants might not be creased and pressed slacks. It's going to be a thing. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I would say too is that like we are constantly making moves and redoing our agreements with our roofing partners to have the most aggressive pricing we can have. And it surprises me how often I see sales reps where they're very eager to use a quality solar installer like ESP, but then they will have some chuck in the truck who gives a outlandishly low roof quote and they want to have him come and then like things go wrong. It's complicated. And so my mom would always have a saying when I was growing up, I can't afford to save that much money. And things like change orders, things like proper warranties, the warranty is only as good as the company behind it, right? And one of the reasons that ESP has a markup on our roofing, we add about 10% to our roof costs so that we have money to take care of those warranty issues. Because 90% plus of the roofers that we use that we don't have a relationship with. It's very common for a sales rep to bring a roofer to us. We process them, we onboard them, we send them 2-3 jobs, and then we never hear from them again. And then when we want to use them and have them come and service a warranty, their phone stops working or they just refuse or whatnot. And yeah, we can try to pursue legal action, but that takes forever and it's a crapshoot, right? What happens right now while the roof is leaking, we send somebody out, we take care of that homeowner, right? That's how we operate, and that's why we have that margin to have money to be able to service and honor these warranties. And so just bottom line, this is the best way to serve the homeowner, and reps that understand that and don't get in their own way and don't fight the process. We have tools to quote instantly. We have ways to be very sure and firm about what your commission is going to be. And we do everything we can to protect that commission and protect your brand and protect the homeowner experience. So you guys can spend your time and energy selling and prospecting and doing what you're good at. Let us be the contractor. Let us be the project managers. And you guys, everyone wins that way. That's all I'll say. And again, anything out of the box, anything that you need from us, you want a roofer you want us to work with, you want a material type that you have questions about, reach out, let us know. We are your advocate. We are your support structure. Our goal is to find a way to make you as much money as possible because everyone wins that way.
Yeah.
100%.
That was amazing, JB. Thanks for taking time out of your day to support us and understanding roofing a lot better now, especially during the rainy season. This is the time of the year to know it. So
this is time. Yep. Quick reminder again, if it's rainy season, if your homeowner calls you in a tizzy, have them call us. We'll get you taken care of. If you have any other roofing questions, pre-sale, email roofing@JourneySP. Really, I want to leave you with this. Roofing is a very established industry, and as JB is fond of saying, it is a need, not a want. Solar is a want. Solar is a great necessity in our opinion, but everybody has a roof over their head, and at some point it will go bad. So the better you get at identifying roof characteristics, knowing how to quote them, knowing how to talk through it, knowing how to present a fair quote, and make sure that everybody's winning, creating these win-wins and leaving people better off when they found them. That's what we're here for. That's the resources that we want to present you with. So bookmark that Rep Hub if you haven't already. Lean on that. And yeah, appreciate everybody's time today. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and let's get it.
yeah, thanks for joining the call, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, JB. Bye.